Well, howdy YouTube gamers, we have a new upload from Piv, and Piv apparently has quite a bad take in this video of his, so like I'm actually curious what is that about, so yeah, let's jump into it.
Hey everyone, it is that time of the decade where I decide to start a new series. First thing I want to discuss is Dustbloods. I have some concerns that I want to discuss. And
okay.
If you're unfamiliar with me, I've been playing Soulsborne games since Demon Souls in 2009. So that's 16 years of these games. And I did the math, over 20,000 hours of mostly PvP. But I am known for being fairly against like meta. I find meta reliance extremely boring, which is part of my concern for Dustbloods that I'll get into in a moment.
Okay.
So yeah, the elephant in the room. FromSoftware's legendary netcode / latency issues joining forces with Nintendo Online and their fabulous reputation. All the issues that we have known with PvP in these games, the issues that turn away most casual players and make them really hate when they get invaded because of how janky it is. Like, you can learn to play around it, you can learn to deal with the jank, but you know, if you don't feel like putting in the effort to do all that, you're probably going to hate it. That might be on the main stage. I'm hoping we'll open up FromSoftware's eyes and have them go, okay, especially Nintendo Online, probably, you know, not helping. They might have to address some stuff. That's the elephant in the room, the latency issues. It's going to happen. I just hope, you know, they can find a way to make it acceptable by most players. But
I just want to point out that fight on his screen is an example of just playing on the cross-region offense. The matchmaking in this game, not matchmaking, the netcode in this game is handling the multiplayer interactions very well. It's just that you cannot let people from across the world to match with each other, no matter the netcode. It's going to crumble. If you are going to a PvP-focused game where PvP interactions are important, then you gotta have to implement regions. You cannot let people from across the world to match with each other. If they are going to actually go with that approach, if there are going to be regions and European players won't be able to play with NA, at least without like agreement from the both sides, then it should be fine. I mean, technically, in case of Switch, you still have like a problems of the device, that it is like essentially a handheld, yeah? Handheld type of console. So you can expect that a lot of people gonna play on the Wi-Fi, which is going to generate another issues, but getting rid of possibility for players, at least by default, to play across the entire world on 200 milliseconds is going to solve a lot of issues. So if they are going to actually go with that, it shouldn't be bad, unironically.
This is something else that's probably been discussed a lot. There's not going to be a very large amount of players to begin with. There'll be enough, but like Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. A lot of people who love PvP in these games are like, I ain't buying a Nintendo Switch 2 for this.
Okay.
Unless maybe if it's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Nintendo exclusive is just a bad move, period. That's true. That being said, the game being exclusive on its own doesn't mean it's going to flop. I remember how like Michael Zaki in interviews was saying that the way how Bloodborne sold was a surprise for them because it apparently sold extremely well. Overall, 7.5 million copies on only one platform by 2022. Like, Bloodborne was apparently the best-selling game of theirs, despite being essentially an exclusive. And of course, Bloodborne, a lot of people were like looking at it as successor of Souls games. It had technically more hype around it, but it doesn't mean that Dustbloods is not going to end up being extremely hyped title. It can happen because, guys, just a reminder, a lot of you hated the guts of Night Rain, and nowadays it's speaking better than Elden Ring, and it's actually has like a growing audience with every single update. It's actually skyrocketing back to like 100k plus players on the average, because that's just ongoing title, like kind of live service. And Dustbloods is going to be about the same. Even if the player base overall gonna be smaller, the active player base might be more decent when it comes to like stability of the numbers than like the titles that are more focused on the single player experience. To be fair, Elden Ring is almost 4 years old and Night Rain is barely half a year old. That's true, Donut, but half a year is already the moment when things stabilized for Elden Ring. We have been looking at the chart. On top of that, Elden Ring had its revival a year ago in form of the DLC. which is also very important. Shitons of people came back to the game. It's literally considered as the best DLC ever made in video game sphere, period. So like, you know, you could make that argument, sure, but at the same time, my point is that Night Rain is doing good. And Duskbloods also can do good. All right, let's continue.
So already people are like not into it because of the exclusivity. On top of that, a PvP centric game and something that can be labeled seemingly under the extraction title, which a lot of people are already tiring of extraction games, even though it's a Miyazaki extraction game. So I'm hoping, you know, he really does his thing and spices things up, which I'm sure he will. I think a lot of players who maybe they have a Nintendo Switch 2, you know, they might not be interested in it just because it's PvP focus or extraction or whatever. So already you're going to have the smaller player base, right? And then the ones who do get it might be turned away because of latency issues and jank.
Okay. Just want to point out that a lot of things that are problematic when it comes like the popularity of the game, in the meaning that when we are invading nowadays, we have like a little bit of problems with activity here and there. Yeah, the game is just not as popular as it used to be. But when you're invading in Elden Ring, you have to deal with a lot of restrictions, level restrictions, weapon level restrictions, like location restrictions. All these things are gone. Like they are not going to be an issue in case of Duskbloods. So like people gonna be connecting to pretty much the same map. People gonna be able to connect with pretty much anyone. My point being here, yeah, if you're going to play a game like For Honor, yeah? For Honor is on multiple different platforms, yeah? But like on the Steam, it has peaks of 4K players, yeah? And these 4K players, plus like other platforms, maybe we are gonna go like up to like total of 15K on the peaks is enough for the game to be quite active. You don't need to have like activity of Elden Ring of like, let's say that for example in Elden Ring, yeah, like we have like a peaks of 25,000, yeah, per 24 hours, and these peaks just do not feel like high enough in order to actively get like constant invasions, and sometimes the game feels dead. Like these issues are not going to be there because like, you know, even if you are going to look like at titles like for example Quake Live or Quake Champions, yeah, you play this game is speaking on PC, it's only on PC I think, like it has 400 players on the peaks, and it really doesn't matter that much. Like you're gonna be meeting the same players here and there, but like you are always gonna find active players to fight against or play with, because the game is focused on that one aspect and doesn't have like too many restrictions when it comes to matchmaking. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna be bad at all.
So all these things combining, not the best like starting point. Bring in another primary concern of mine. Metas in these games, as I said before, I'm known for just hating meta reliance. I think it's so boring.
Gamer light rolling around, meta hater by the way.
I don't know why so many people treat these games like they're going to Evo. It's never going to happen. You're not going to Evo. I would prefer like at least PvPers, people who, whether it be like PvPers I know or like people who are getting into PvP, there should come a point where you feel confident enough to branch out and try things that may not be quote unquote meta. And I'm not saying don't optimize your stats for said builds. Definitely do that.
Okay.
But you don't have to always have like the best thing. Because most of the encounters, at least from an invasion perspective, I'm not talking arena here. Most of the players you encounter are going to be noobs just trying to get through the game. And like, I don't know how much you really feel you need to sweat on like Kevin and little Timmy and their friend.
Okay, wait. On the serious note, how many people actually do that? Because realistically, I think this is what we all do. Yeah? If you think about it, like once in a while, I'm doing some quirky shit. Like for example, I don't know, in this video over here, I, for example, have like minus 400% defenses and 15 vigor. And that's how I was invading. Or even recently, I had entire segment of invasions with the short sword only, which is very fun of meta weapon, And like when I, for example, meet people in arena, it's mostly also like I'm playing some goofy shit. Like if I see like my opponent is incompetent, it's usually I'm not going to just like a burst of like freaking clean rod BHS against them. Like it's a huge strawman that PV is doing here, frankly. Making this type of strawmans sounds so fucking weird because PV is not a guy that is just like a purely like a casual gamer. He, back in the days of Dark Souls 1, had like a shit tons of guides and shit to improve at the game, This video, for example, 13 years ago, he is just presenting people like techniques, how to work around the backstabs and just like parry like a backstab attempts. So the guy actually straight up started with the standpoint of attempting to be better at the game and actually generally like had a tryhard like approach. It just, something happened at some point that he started making the strawmans as, like meta bad, optimal play bad. It's so fucking weird though, like to see the journey of the gamer like this. It's just, he went from like from being basically a blueprint for a tryhard to just coping, if I'm being frank.
Like teach their own. But as an invader, I see what people are copying. I see the same builds 1,000 times over, the same gameplay styles, to where I can immediately pick out like, okay, a YouTuber told you what you're doing.
This is like one of the worst arguments ever. I see shit tons of people that copy my build. And by no means, I think that's a bad thing. I have particular experience with invasions, I effectively win a lot of invasions that would be considered impossible to win. And people just acknowledge that I'm doing something right, so they are trying my shit. There is no point to reinvent a wheel anew. You wearing banished knight armor doesn't make you unique, my dude. There is like 200,000 people that do exactly the same. This is not like you having particular fashion makes your identity unique. There is that little things that you can do in the game. You're limited by particular like setups that you can wear, and then also by the game mechanics, because let's be honest, if you are running in rags, if you have like a 20 freaking poise, then you are straight up just not benefiting out of the poise mechanic, which is fundamental. You not playing to the foundations of the game doesn't make you unique. It makes you a moron.
You can just tell after a while. You're just like, oh, you're using the thing. You have the full setup. You Googled this, and that's fine. It's hard to make a new build in these games, and especially, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but if you're doing PvE and you just want the invader out, fair, kick the invader's ass out of your game, whatever means necessary. But meta reliance, whether from players like that that feel they really need it, or PvPers, whether just getting into it, or veterans, or maybe the ones getting into it who are copying the veterans, because you've seen the videos. Most OP thing, this is so broken. Everyone does it. Like, it drives me crazy, but everyone does it. And it spreads these things like wildfire, and everyone starts using it. And you are going to be seeing that a lot. And so what I'm getting at is any meta in these games, unless you're the most brain-rotted PvPer of all time, where you just think that these games have like this incredibly high skill ceiling where you're eventually like, it's a crime that it hasn't been picked up by Evo yet. Unless that's your mindset.
Like, I really do not understand people using the Evo argument. Evo is for the fighting games. This is action RPG, and invasions is not the main activity for it. So like, yeah, I mean, it's not gonna. I don't understand why. It's like, you know, it's like with complaints about people that, for example, play Counter-Strike, but they are not playing the main game. Instead, they play like Surf. So people playing in Counter-Strike this type of things, for example, and there is entire competitive community that like compete for the high ranks and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's a side activity that people do, and people fucking love it. And like, it would be so ridiculous to laugh at these people. Haha, you are competing on surfing? Why won't you go to the, I don't know, to the beach and just like jump on the real surfing? Haha, like what the fuck? What's wrong with you? Like, this is ridiculous, dude. It's just a side activity. It's fine to do it. There is no problem with that. Like, there is no problem with just doing something within the realm of the game that is not its main activity, and enjoy it and get better at it. Like, it's so fucking ridiculous. Challenge runs are not a thing that are expected by developers of the game, yeah? What, like people like Scrubnut are essentially fucking cheaters because they actually just, I don't know, like beat the game at NG plus 1000 because they got good enough at the game in order to manage that. It's fucking ridiculous, like to continuously bring this argument. I have heard it so many times that you shouldn't take it seriously because it's not at Evo. You don't need to have like huge tournaments at the game to take it seriously. There is no problem with that. It's just a matter of your personal preference that you want to improve at the game. And yet again, it's so baffling to me that Piv, an individual that is yet again blueprint for a tryhard from the old days, someone that initially was looking for ways how to effectively get rid of the gankers and actually figuring out techniques how to do that, is now saying this type of bullshit.
You're gonna look at the metas that these games produce and be like, this sucks. Like, the game has so much variety to offer, especially Elden Ring, and everyone's using the same like X amount of things. Like, meta's form.
What you mean? Meta in this game is extremely freaking variable. Like, it's like there is so many variables in the meta. It's so just out of the meta tools, out of top of my head, like the most broken things, of course, like a BHS clean road, dwelling shield, close of night, Rakshasa setups with the offhand with the Rakshasas, Wakizashi setups, Wakizashi shield setups, Wakizashi handax setups overall with, like, for example, like recently since patch 1.14, even within the meta, like even within the hard meta, you have still shitons of tools that are just good. In Dark Souls 3, you had like a Mercy and PKCS. Someone picks one of these two and you have to swap to the same shit. It's not the case. In Elden Ring, someone picks up like a TSBHS, you can use like Flaming Strike, for example, like a handax, like Halberd, yeah? And you actually have like a good footing, yeah? Someone picks like the Dwelling Shield, you can pick up Close of Night. Someone picks like a Backhand Blade with the Swift Slash, you can use the Hyper Armor setups, like for example, like a Great Spear, yeah? You running around in the fucking rags on the unoptimal shit, which actually it's not even true. Yet again, like we see Piv here just light rolling around. Light roll is one of the most broken things this game ever produced. So like, what's the problem here even? Like, I don't understand. Like, the guy literally plays the meta on his own.
It happens. It's gonna happen. People want the win screen. But especially in these games, your build and your setup can do insanely heavy lifting.
That's true. Build making is important in action RPG. And you do nearly as good as you do because you are on light roll. Because even over here, you would get just simply blended if not for your light roll.
And it spreads.
This situation over here, yeah? The fact here you actually was managed to roll out here is literally just a light roll miracle. The fact he wasn't actually like hit by the running R2 over here is purely based off light roll. Dude, god fucking damn it.
That's why like R1 spam was king until Elden Ring, and now it's, well, at least in Invasions, it's L2 spam. All right, enter Dustbloods.
Okay.
It's going to be the first game where PvP is like at the core. That's going to make people even more competitive than before. They're going to think, oh, dude, this is like Miyazaki's Tarkov, I have to sweat my ass off. I have to.
Good.
I got to get those dubs. I have to sweat. Let me find the strongest character with the strongest setup, because Miyazaki, I believe, did mention there might be some kind of level of build craft. I don't think it'll be...
Okay, so like all what we know about Duskblood so far is that it's going to be essentially a hero shooter equivalent. So like you're gonna have characters, yeah? And these characters gonna have their loadouts. It's like Night Train in that regard, yeah? Probably like some sort of the skills and so on and so forth. People figuring out the meta as early as possible is only an information to developer what is supposed to be balanced around. That's good. The game gonna be rough at the beginning. It's practically always like this, yeah? Especially From Software. I mean, like, From Software can always nail the balance from the get-go, yeah? There is also a very small but still a possibility. But you got the point, yeah? You ultimately, like, have possibility to interact with the most broken shit for the period of, like, a few weeks. That's going to be patched out. So, dude, just jump in and cherish it. Because it will be gone from the game probably sooner than later. The same, like, for example, with the Swift Slash. Yeah, Swift Slash got essentially patched with, like, a first week. It's still, like, extremely strong, don't get me wrong. But it was just straight up unbelievably broken at the release, and it is simply not anymore. The same goes for essentially, like, Duskbloods. Yeah, initially, people gonna figure out the meta, they're gonna play the meta gonna be extremely popular, and then if something gonna be extreme outlier, then it's gonna be nerfed. As simple as that.
We're used to. Maybe some mix between Night Rain as well as a few things you can equip or adjust. Who knows? If they're able to, everyone will use the same thing, and that's all they're going to spam. And even though that happens in other games, I'm telling you, in these games, it's going to be especially mindless and especially boring. And that, my fear, could turn away. My fear is it could turn away a lot of those players, the ones that are interested, if that's all you see, if you just see the same shit over and over and over. And as an invader, I'm telling you, people want that windscreen. They will use the same mindless shit. How could From handle this and make it, an engaging experience? First of all, the PvE side of it, I mean, we don't know much, but maybe that's super in depth. I don't know. That would be nice. I think we need shenanigans. They have the Covenant system. They're bringing back Covenants. That can spice things up. You're encouraging players to maybe play in a way they normally wouldn't. I think one of them is you're given a person's name, I think, and you have to find them in the match and befriend them and try to work with them. And maybe they won't want to. Maybe they'll just kill you. Or maybe you'll stab yourselves in the back later. Who knows? I don't know. That sounds like shenanigans to me. So if there's like a bunch of stuff like that really mixes up the gameplay, that could be great. That has kept me interested in Invasions for so long, is that unknown element. There's a ton of like unknown elements to Invasions that keep them interesting. I think focusing on that unknown element and the potential of shenanigans can really help cut like the sweat lard desperation. And I really hope they do a good job with that, because otherwise you're going to have latency problems. You're going to have an already small player base. And then the ones that are interested are going to be turned away from what is inevitably going to be an extremely boring meta.
Okay, so it's important for the game to have continuous waves of casuals that come to your game. Like it's important for you to have the casual audience that just wants to check out what the game is about in order to further like turn them into the regulars, yeah, into people that stay with the game. No matter what game it is, no matter the history of gaming, like that's like at its core casual game, competitive game or whatever, people always were complaining about metas. People dislike metas. Meta lords dislike metas. They're gonna complain about this meta being better than that. Then there's gonna be a patch that's gonna actually like change the meta. People gonna say, oh, that meta was better. I don't really think that the game that is PvP focused, having like a strong meta is an issue. Like not at all. I don't really think that, first of all, this game is going to have anything for people that just want to play it casually, because it is going to be competitive game on its core. So yeah, people gonna be yapping about meta, people gonna be upset about meta, but even like the biggest casuals gonna be actually playing the core competitive aspect of this game. So like I have hard time understanding why we would need something more, yeah, than just like a core gameplay of the game that we have offered like so far. We know that there's gonna be a lot of things for people to enjoy the game in various different ways. We know there are gonna be events like Piv mentioned. Even if all these things are going to be strictly within like a meta play, it's still okay because fundamentally the game is going to be hyper competitive because at its core it's gonna be a PvP game. So like I have feeling like no matter what, like the things that Piv mentioned here are going to be potentially good for people that are not even interested in that hyper competitive experience. Like you got the point. I think like a Piv is being afraid that the game is not going to have aspects that you have in Elden Ring. And no, it won't have because it's different type of game. It's hyper competitive PvP game. That's what Duskbloods is going to be, like PvP, PvE, of course, but you got the point, yeah? I think like even Piv, yeah, when he plays Night Rain, I'm not sure if he has any videos on his channel from Night Rain, but I think like he does have something. He is playing Executor. Yeah, he's playing like Executor practically all the time. For people that dislike meta or like cope around about like meta being bad, they are going to find something for themselves, and it's going to be like in case of Piv just playing Executor all the time, the guy just gonna find himself like a off-meta character that he's going to try his best at, and that's gonna be like his way how he could potentially enjoy like, you know, off-meta of Duskbloods. It's not like people like really in the competitive games, even that are like a hyper focused, let's say like a League of Legends. In League of Legends, you have all these champions, and some of them, or like most of them, are actually not really a meta characters, and people still play them. Like, people find a way to make Sion, actually I'm not sure if Sion is still like a meta or off meta, but people like find the ways how to play the guy in the way that they literally purposefully die, and they utilize the passive of the guy where he actually becomes super powerful after death for the split of the second, because he becomes like a zombie that has like a short amount of time to deal shit tons of damage, and they are like actually literally winning games by losing, yeah? And that's like an off-meta approach that actually works. I assume Duskblood's probably gonna have some sort of equivalent of relic system from Night Rain, and people probably gonna be figuring out some sort of the off-meta builds that's going to be interesting to them and maybe to other people. Out of all these issues that might actually just make casual players to quit the game, the only thing that is serious is average latency. If you're gonna be able to connect with everyone across the world and the average latency of you going to be around 200 milliseconds, it is genuinely something that might actually throw off casual players, because they are gonna be like receiving damage from miles away. And this is like, so far from that what I see, the only legitimate complaint that Piv makes. Everything else is him trying to turn Duskblood's hyper competitive game into action RPG with the invasions, duels, and other stuff as the side activity that Elden Ring is.
I hope the concerns I have get addressed rather quickly as they inevitably, show up. And I hope it's unique and engaging for everyone involved and doesn't just devolve into meta reliance desperation that just makes the entire experience miserable for everyone.
If you are going to remove particular meta from the game, new meta is going to emerge. Meta always going to be the case. If something, like I wonder if, let's say, like meta playstyle would be a playstyle that Piv actually going to like in Duskbloods, then what? The gamer is going to hop off it just because he doesn't want to be accused of playing meta? It doesn't make sense. Meta is in every single game. In the meaning of what meta is, like in the new school meaning of what meta is basically most efficient tactic available. There is always going to be the most efficient way of playing the game. If you are going to remove the most efficient way of playing the game, there is going to be a new most efficient way of playing the game. People think meta equals insta win button. Well, Donut, doesn't change the fact that even if people think that, then Once they are going to remove one instant win button, then you're gonna have another instant win button. Like, hating on meta is the most retarded thing imaginable in my eyes, because meta is going to be always here. That's just how it works. Anyway, that was Piv and his thought process. I solely disagree with almost everything that he said in this video. I think he has very bad vision of what meta is and impact of meta on the game, and also impact on meta on the casual players. I think he overestimates what hard meta actually does to like multiplayer sessions. And truth is that people that dislike playing meta gonna find their own fun. As simple as that. They're gonna be playing of meta characters, of meta setups, of meta relics, of meta whatever. These people won't disappear. They are still going to be there, and they are still gonna be enjoying the game their own way.